I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and this very long grey saloon behind me is the new Lexus ES. Now, the traditional sedan market is one that used to be huge like 20 years ago, but it has shrunk to really small proportions in Australia and in many other markets as well. So for sedans to compete, they really have to offer something above and beyond an SUV, so you don't just get into a crossover. And in many ways, the Lexus ES does just that, because for less than the price of a decently specified RX, Lexus's popular midsize SUV, you can get into one of these with more equipment, better handling, and arguably a better looking car as well. Because I don't mind this new ES. I think it tones down the overt Lexus styling characteristics a little bit. Like the spindle grille, it's there. I mean, it's large and in charge, but it's not as big as, say, the new LS. So if your persona isn't quite as big, this one might suit you a bit better. Now, the ES, it's very popular as a chauffeur's car in Australia. There's no avoiding that. But Lexus are quite clever because they sell it in two specs. This sort of more basic luxury, which is what you'd buy if you were driving people around, but also for 15 grand more, a sports luxury version, which is actually very opulent. Now, underneath the skin of the Lexus ES, there's quite a bit of Toyota Camry. They share a hybrid system, a 2.5 litre hybrid engine, a 4-cylinder. But, it's not a problem that it shares a platform and an engine with the Camry, because that's an excellent car. So if Lexus can take those underpinnings and then build a luxury sedan out of it, that's fine by me. I actually think that, a really big difference between the two is the length of the ES. It's very long. It's almost 5 meters long. You might want to check your garage before buying, but that does give it plenty of presence. And this rear end, I think, is actually pretty handsome. Now, you find the boot release over here. There's a huge boot. It's really wide as well, so it's nice and easy to put suitcases in there. Got the two Chasing Cars suitcases right here. What a coincidence. Not that much of a load lip, and you could get two suitcases side by side. The only issue is that it's got one of these old-fashioned boots with these exposed arms, which crush stuff if it's too close to those arms, so you've got to be a bit careful there. The other problem with the ES Hybrid is that there's no folding rear seats. There's only a pass-through, so there's a little bit of practicality there, but you cannot flip that rear bench all the way down. Nice and easy to close the boot though. The other place that the ES excels is in the room inside, and we'll start up front, because for me, one of the big standouts of this car is its cabin. I think it's really nicely designed. And we mentioned the Toyota Camry before. One area where you won't find any Camry is here in the front of the ES. It's very, very nicely done. I can't find any Camry at all, actually. If you can spot something, well, you're doing better than me. Now, this is the base ES in Australia. It is 60 grand, and this is a pretty lovely interior for that kind of money. You get Lexus's really big screen, 12 inches, it's huge. It's driven by this touchpad. I'm not going to harp on about it. You guys know that it's kind of the bane of a car journalist's existence because it's just not that easy to use, but you do get used to it. You have a nice new Lexus steering wheel. It's got a hell of a lot of buttons, that's one thing, but it is really small, which I like. It's got white stitching through it, and you look through it sort of semi-digital gauges as well, which gives you, speed and tacho and that sort of thing. The seats are really nice, actually. They're not that highly bolstered because this isn't a sports car, but they are firm yet supportive. The leather is soft, even the base grade leather, but if you go for the sports luxury, which is 75 grand here in Australia, you get beautiful semi-aniline leather seats and wooden trim. This luxury grade, the base grade, it's a little more basic looking inside, a bit darker, not as interesting. Now, you do get quite a few nice amenities in here. You get 10-way power seats in the base car. You get 14-way in the upper spec car. You get stuff like standard wireless smartphone charging, which is cool. You get 2 fast charging USB ports as well. And this funky little central box, which can open from the left or the right. That's kind of sweet. That's felt lined. One thing that isn't felt lined though is the door bins, which is a little unusual, I would say, for a luxury car. But another thing that's very unusual is how much space the ES has in the back, and that's where we're going to go now. It's got really big doors, which makes it nice and easy to get in. Being a sedan though, you do have to drop your head as you climb in. But once you get back here, it's cavernous, it's limo-like. My seat's adjusted for myself. I'm 6 feet tall and I've got okay headroom. I've got really good legroom, amazing legroom, and tow room is pretty generous too. You could easily fit 4 full-size adults in this car. The middle seat, that's a bit of a perch because it's got a high floor and the seat itself actually goes up, so I would only use that occasionally. Air vents, they're standard in the back, but if you go for that upper spec sports luxury, you actually get a 3rd climate zone back here too. But you do get 2 fast charging USB ports, which is cool. You get a 12-volt socket back here. Plus the material quality doesn't drop off, so it still feels nice and luxurious here in the back. Whoa, you got this pretty swish flip down console here with a flock line central portion and 2 cup holders, another little tray. That's cool. So I think all in all, you would say that this is a pretty practical and extremely spacious back seat.
So how does the Lexus ES drive? Very competently would be the executive summary. Underneath this long sedan essentially sits Lexus and Toyota's TNGA platform, the chassis that has done wonders for several vehicles from these manufacturers now. Essentially, the chassis feels stiff, stable, and exploitable. Yes, even in a sedan focused so much on rear seat comfort. Sweet steering and good body control paired to firm but mostly compliant suspension, with only the worst ruts and potholes of Sydney roads upsetting the occupants with slightly too much jar, even on these smaller wheels. The adaptive dampers that will be standard on the forthcoming F Sport grade of the ES may help to smooth some of this out. Under the bonnet is just one engine for Australia, a 2.5 litre petrol-electric 4-cylinder hybrid. A 4-pot it may be, but with 160 kilowatts of power, it gets the job done. Wind it out and the Atmo engine is noisy, but allow the ES to gently waft along on electric torque, and the engine is serene but surprisingly swift. We managed real-world economy of just 5 litres per 100 kilometres in town with just a modicum of self-control. An amazing result that would seriously reduce your bills at the Bowser. Overseas, there is a V6 petrol engine offered on the Lexus ES, badged ES350, that isn't going to come to Australia, it turns out, but there's something about this petrol-electric powertrain that's really endeared itself over a week of testing.
So those are my impressions of the Lexus ES. I reckon this is a pretty convincing luxury sedan. It's comfortable transport. It's got a lovely interior. I think it looks all right. Let me know what you reckon down in the comments. I think the driving experience is pretty competent as well. The hybrid, it works very well for a car like this. It's super economical. So if you're going to be driving the car a lot, it'll save you some money, definitely in fuel. And it's not even that expensive to buy. So hey, I reckon the Lexus ES is pretty good. Now, if you haven't subscribed to Chasing Cars, please do so below the video, hit that notification bell. And as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.